Thank you all for attending today's webinar. My name is Brian Rocha, and I'm with One Life Fully Lived. And we have a really exciting webinar today. But first, before we get started and introduce him, just a couple housekeeping things. Wanted to let you guys all know our next webinar. Again, these are free webinars held every month, hosted by us. And so we have once a month, and our next webinar is scheduled for May 13th with Christopher Lockhead on creating a legendary life. And for all of you that have attended our conferences and then have heard Chris speak, you all know the value and how incredible and powerful it is. He'll actually be focusing in on a portion of his typical presentation. And for those that haven't heard him, you're in for a real treat. So be sure to go to onelifefullylived.org/webinars, and you're able to register for that today. And also, before we get started, wanted to let you guys know One Life Fully Lived has a really exciting announcement. And if you want to know what that announcement is, you're going to have to wait till the end of the webinar, and we'll be sharing that with you. So welcome the attendees that are just logging in now. And without further ado, I have a special guest to introduce our presenter today. And that special guest is founder of One Life Fully Lived, Tim Rhode. Tim, are you there?
I am, Brian. Thanks a lot for allowing me the honor to introduce our special guest today. Dr. Fred Grosse is somebody I met back around 1997, but for over 3 decades, Dr. Grosse has been a business psychotherapist. The best things I've gotten out of listening to Dr. Grosse is the concept of dollar productive activity, multiple incarnations, and releasing the mooring lines that keep us from getting to where we want to get. But boy, I hope you have a pen and paper and can take lots of notes. And this is one you're probably going to want to listen to a few times to make sure you get everything, because Dr. Fred's got a lot to offer. And without further ado, my good friend and mentor, Dr. Fred Grosse.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much, Tim. Dr. Fred, you are now live. And for all of our attendees, this is our first time utilizing video for our webinars. So we'd love to hear your feedback. Feel free to shoot some questions if you have any during the webinar. I'll be monitoring the questions for Dr. Fred. And Dr. Fred, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Brian. Can you hear me?
Yes. And it looks like you're sharing 2 screens. We're going to want you to just share your your video screen.
Okay. How's that?
Right. Go to your control panel.
Yes. What am I missing? Oh, I've got you now, Brian.
Okay. Let's see. I'm gonna shut off so everyone else can see your pretty face instead of mine.
You've got a nice face. You keep it.
All right, Dr. Fred.
Are you ready to go? Okay, my name is Fred Grosse. I'm sitting currently in my home in Phoenix, Arizona. Ordinarily, I live in Christchurch, New Zealand, and I'm a New Zealand citizen and resident, as well as a U.S. citizen and resident. And in my lifestyle, we spend about 180 days a year traveling. So we're nomadic, and we do seminars both in the US, Australia, New Zealand, Cambodia, Bali, Italy, Greece, and all these different places, so that we have a life moving around. My brief for today is to deal with cutting mooring lines. And mooring lines are any impediment that prevent you from getting your goals and your dreams, any impediment. So it could be a snowstorm, or it could be low self-esteem, or it could be not enough money, but it makes no difference because all of them can be changed relatively easily. I'm going to start by letting you know that there'll be 3 takeaways which I will be focusing on, and then I'll review near the end. And there'll be some action programs that you can take as well. And I would hope that each of you has something to write with. It could be electronic or it could be another form of writing, because I'll be asking you to do different things. I'm going to start talking, and my belief, my PhD incidentally is in clinical psychology. So I've been a training therapist for 40 years, and my focus is exclusively on business, although I work with the people's families and their heirs and their employee groups as well. My second focus, beside that, is the realization that my work is about having an amazing life before you die. So I'm going to fill in just a little bit before you get nervous. I'm also an ordained rabbi, ordained in 1965. I used to live in Jerusalem. And I've also been an archaeologist and a chemist, and I've been to medical school and a few other little tidbits that you'll hear in my presentation. My concern as we start is I see human beings as living in their body, that they're not their body, so that your arm or your leg is not you, but your I-ness is really your soul, your hopes, your dreams, your beliefs, your skills, your life experience, your tribal customs, the languages that you speak. So that when I talk to you or when I look at any human being on the planet, I see them as spirit living in body, and that at a certain point when body and spirit separate, it's called dying. Unfortunately, many people who watch television, text, and avoid living spend their whole life being dead, and then they die officially. And part of today is for you to consider choosing life so that every minute, every hour, every day, every week is precious, and where you're achieving what you want. And the mooring lines are only the inconvenience holding you back for the temporary present. So when human beings are spirit, you realize that spirit is here only when the body is here. We don't get lost into theology. But when I speak to you, I'm speaking to your consciousness. I'm talking to your heart. I'm talking to your Geist, your psyche, your élan vital. I'm speaking to your nefesh. I'm speaking to your soul. So when you're listening, I'm asking you to pay attention to what your response is to what I'm saying. Because my theme is to teach you how to get what you want in life. And part of that is to get a sense of what it is that you want. So part one, knowing that the human spirit can be shaped. It's called education when you shape spirit. So I'm talking to you with that in mind. I'd like you to hear some of my core beliefs. One of the core beliefs that I operate is that I believe that you should focus on that which you control and not that which you don't control. That there are many things in the world you control. You control your time. You can control who you spend time with. You can control what you put in your mouth. You can control your fitness level. You can control different aspects of things inside of you. In other words, you can control your moods, your attitudes, your self-esteem. All of that I can teach people how to change. It's not hard to do. You just need the skills to be able to do it. This will be a brief overview. But one is to focus on that which you do control. What don't you control? You don't control the weather. You don't control the stock market. You don't control the war in Syria or Afghanistan. You don't control what the politicians are doing with our tax money. You don't control what the Supreme Court is doing in giving the ability to corporations to buy politicians, which is what the latest edict that came out of Emperor Central. The fact remains is that if you focus on the airplane that went down in Asia, it's really none of your business. So one of the things I would urge you to do is to realize that your job is to focus on what you can control and to control it. And part of the mooring lines that come in is you focus on things you don't control. You can't control the stock market or interest rates or what your kid is going to do, but you perhaps can influence. The second is that you can develop an ability to influence what you don't control. And this will be important. Getting old, you can't control. If you stay alive, you can die, and then you solve the problem of getting old. But if you get old, you can't prevent that, but you can influence it by eating properly, being fit, having enough money to support yourself, get good medical care, have an interesting lifestyle with the money that can be provided. And so that I would like you to get a sense that, one, there's a whole arena of what you control, and that's the arena we're going to work in. There's an arena where you don't control it, but you can influence it, so that if you can't control if it rains or not, or if it's cold or warm, but you can use an umbrella, and you can get a warm coat, and you can wear a hat, and you can get the right shoes. And so you can't control the rain, but you cannot let it bother you as much. So one thing I'm influencing right away is I'm going to ask you to realize that as I'm speaking and whatever notes you're taking, I'm going to be asking you to pay attention to what you control. And if you can't control something, I'm asking you to give it a miss. You can't control what's on television. It's all rubbish. Don't watch it. You can't control the propaganda that comes through the school system, but you can educate your kids on the side. We can go there at another time. The first theme then is focusing on what you control rather than what you don't. The second thing that is a core belief for me is that everything that we need for you to have an amazing and magnificent life is inside you right now. Now, for many people that's difficult, but it's sometimes easy to say that all of your past experience from conception or from birth are programmed in your unconscious. They're there. So that if you take a minute with me right now, and if you're not driving, to close your eyes for a minute and imagine that you're in primary school. Go back to when you were between age 5 and 10 and imagine a friend that you had from primary school and imagine where you're meeting up with them. Are you meeting up in the playground, in the classroom? Are you playing a sport? But I'd like you to imagine experience from when you were 5 to 10 years old with a good friend of yours, and to imagine what they were wearing, where you were sitting, what time of the year it is. And as you take a deep breath in doing this, just take a minute, take a deep breath, and then I'm going to ask you to come back to the seminar. By show of hands, which nobody can see, there's a very high probability you were able to see one of your friends. And that friend might have been 6 or 7 years old as you were. And you just went back into your unconscious mind, into that cavern of storage, and were able to just take a peek at something which was sitting there the whole time. It wasn't hiding, but you didn't access it because you never asked yourself the prompt question that I did, is would you be willing to meet yourself at that level? We could ask anything. So one of the things is that everything that's ever happened to you, plus all of your responses, are in your unconscious right now. Some of them are unimportant, some of them might have been traumatic, and that you still haven't finished working through. But the fact is that your long body, your psychological long body, walks with you in the present into the future. So we're dealing with then all past is inside of you. And that can be the imprint by which you look at the future, your basic core beliefs around money, around politeness, around assertiveness, around self-esteem, around what you deserve in life, around how you develop your skills, abilities, talents, dreams, and visions are all inside of you now. And so the issue is not to find them, but to access them because they're there, and then to develop them should you choose that. And one of the mooring lines is people have all of this wealth of who they've been inside of them, and they don't utilize that. They go and look and see what movie stars are doing, or athletes, or politicians. And you have then outside heroes who basically all belong either in mental hospitals or jails. And I'm asking you to be able to look into the mirror and find the hero within you, the part of you that really is a wonderful human being. So we're starting with a core belief that I'm moving toward the area that's important, is that the core belief says that everything that's happened to you plus your responses, all of your selfness, I-ness is inside of you. And the only issue is how we get it out and how we harness it and utilize it. It's not that it isn't there, it's that the skill is how to get it out and how to do something with it. And now this part is even more tricky, and this will be the last of the key core beliefs, but that your entire future is inside of you as well. Your entire future between now and when you decide to die. Realize that most people who are participant in what we call herd culture, the ones who actually take the lead from television and media and so forth, all know that they're supposed to die between 75 and 85, and if you're not, you're upsetting the retirement system, because then you'll actually get paid from it. But I would like you to consider that inside of you is your entire future, and if you can have access to it, which we're going to do in the next few minutes, we can then find out what you'd like to do with your life. Now, often I'll speak to people and say, what would you be doing in 2020, 6 years from now? And they say, I don't know. I'll see when I get there. How can you tell the future? And the people I work with, when I ask them what the future in 2020 is, they take out their goal sheets and they said, well, here's how much money I'll have. Here's the countries I'll have visited. Here will be 6 years from now the ages of my kids, my beloveds, my parents. Here's what my businesses will be doing. Here are the countries I will have visited. Here's the accomplishment I will have achieved. And they have made a plan around goals that they're going to focus on and implement, so that 2020 is a fulfillment of their goals. They're not victims of the small poppy culture or the culture of the majority group that's put out in Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck and news media and announcements by retarded politicians. But in fact, they are creating a life that's perfect for them, like a custom tailored suit. So our work now is your willingness to know that your future, or even consider, and I'm not too weird about this, that your future is inside of you. And I would like you to spend a few minutes with me now unearthing some of your goals. So I'd like you to take a piece of paper or something that you write on, and I'm going to ask you, I'm going to time you for 2 minutes in real time, 120 seconds, and I would like you to write down 10 or more goals that you would like to achieve by December of 2014. Now, I don't know who you are, but you can see me. I would like you to write down 10 or more goals. Spelling doesn't count. We're not going to collect the homework. 10 or more goals that you would like to achieve by December of this year, another 8 months from now, 9 months from now. And it can be sports, fitness, travel, money, anything at all. And a goal is something in the future that you're aiming for. I want to know what you're aiming for. Time is starting now. You have 2 minutes of real time. You'll hear a bell when the time is up. If you have any difficulty, don't think at all. Just write as many of these goals that you can think of. And whatever pops out, just put it down. Again, about beloveds, about kids, about travel, about relatives, about money, about food, about drink, sports, anything that's important to you. 1 minute has passed, 1 more minute to go. I'm looking for 10 or so goals that you would like to achieve or accomplish by the end of this year, December 2014. Just a couple of more seconds. We're writing as many goals as you can think of. Okay, coming up on 2 minutes now. Listen to the bell. I'm going to ask you to stop, and I clearly can't tell how many you've written, but you can. And I'm assuming that you've written anywhere between 6 and 15 goals that you'd like to accomplish. They may not be ideal. The question you're going to have to ask yourself is, where were these goals before I asked you to write them down? And the answer was they were inside you. How long have they been inside of you? They may have been there for 10 or 15 years. We don't know. There's in some sort of storage inside of you, which is a wonderful experience. But I'm asking you to realize that you have within you a lot of goals. And for me, one of my core beliefs is life is about achieving all of your important goals, all of them, every single one. And so mooring lines is when you have a goal and you don't achieve them, either because you don't know what they are, and we're starting with first know what it is that you want to achieve, because how can we go there? And the first mooring line is not even know where to aim. And that's what we're working on right now. So you have these goals. Everyone you love has these goals. Every customer you deal with has goals. Every human being, this is big, has at least 10,000 goals inside of them right now. And most of the people I meet before I work with them usually die with all their goals inside of them, never playing the music of their life, because these goals are the core of what you're meant to do with your life, to achieve your important goals. That's my point of view. And they're right there, and you got them out in less than 2 minutes. And if you did this on a daily basis without looking at the paper every day, spend 2 minutes and dumped goals like we're doing right now, at the end of a few months, you would have 50, 100, 200, 500 goals. And what I'd like you to do is go back to the list of goals that you just wrote, and I would like you to write a number next to each of the goals as to how important it is to you. How important, how potent it is. So if something is important, this goal about spending more time with your kids might be a 10. And if it's less important to visit your auntie in Michigan, it could be that it's a 6. So I'm asking to write next to each of the goals that you wrote down a number from 1 to 10, and depends on how important it is. At 10, you can have all 10s, you can have all 9s, but you have just spewed up something you'd like to accomplish by December. Now we're potentizing. Just write it down as quickly as you can. I'm only going to give you 10 or 15 seconds. And to get a sense of these goals are inside of you. Yeah. And now we've put them outside of you, and now we can potentize them. And then the ones that say 10 are more important. And now I'm going to ask you to take it still further. I'm asking you to write down one of the goals that you wrote a 10 next to on a separate piece of paper. So it could be to visit your mom and dad over the Easter holiday, could be a goal, or for Christmas or Thanksgiving. And whatever the number 10 goal that you wrote next to, I'm going to ask you to take 1 minute of real time, 1 minute of real time on the clock, and write down 5 behaviors, things that you can do to get toward that goal. So if it's visiting mom and pop, it could be I can call them up and see when they're going to be there. I can see what the travel expense would be. I can call and check with my family to see if they're willing to join me. I can get some presents that I'll bring to them. We can do different behaviors that would move us in that direction. So I'm asking you to, right now, you're taking 1 minute in real time to write down activities or actions that you could take that would move you closer to that goal, whatever it is that you said it was a 10, it was important to you. We've just used 30 seconds. There are just 30 seconds left. Realize that not only is the goal inside of you, all of your goals, but all of the implementation of all of your goals is inside of you. Coming up on 45 seconds, I'm asking you to write down things you could do that may not achieve the goal, but would move you closer to it. Making sure you have a transport. Making sure you have the time off work would be all part of that. Okay? We're finishing up 1 minute. And if you were successful at all, you were able to write 2, 3, or 4 behaviors, and when you look at them, all of them would have helped you achieve the goal. Now let's turn this around into mooring lines. A mooring line is anything that gets you to not achieve your goals. Now, if you don't know what your goals are, how can you achieve them? So the first thing we need to know is to systematically do exercises called goal dumping and write down for yourself and for people you love without tutoring. Just take 2, 3, or 4 minutes a day, like when you're brushing your teeth, you can take time off and write.
Hello, Dr. Fred. Dr. Fred? We may be having some issues with the audio. Bear with us while we try to get this fixed. One moment. Can you hear me? We don't seem to have any audio from your end. Can you check your? You can't hear me. Can you unplug your headset? Can't hear you, doctor. No. Sorry, attendees. We'll get this situated here.
I can hear you now.
Can't hear you, doctor.
What do I do?
Talk.
Okay, I can keep talking. Nothing coming through.
Hmm.
Okay.
See.
Pause. Now I'm coming back. Okay, I can see me.
I'm going to send him a chat. Bear with us, audience.
Okay.
Oh, looks like Lori says she can hear you. So go ahead, Doctor. I have no
Okay, I'm
audio
going to
from
just
my
keep
end,
going. I'm
but
sorry about
apparently
these technical challenges. Not to worry.
Lori can hear from her end. So continue,
So
Doctor.
no, I'll just keep going as long as Lori can hear. One level of what I call mooring lines or stuckness is not knowing what you want. The second is not knowing how to get it. The third is when you know what you want, because you've just written it down, these are your goals that are important, and you now know some of the steps you can take to segregate time of your normal week. You have 7 days in a week, you have 24 hours in the day, you have 168 hours a week. I would want you to spend 2, 3, or 4 hours a week working on your important goals. And if you find that as you're working on them, that other challenges come up and begin to block you, i.e. mooring lines, not to worry about them, but to write down whatever it is that might be. It could be I don't have enough money. It could be I don't believe I deserve it. I would write those things down, and we can't go into that right now, but there are ways of erasing all of these things. So part one of dealing with mooring lines is to be able to pull from your unconscious, which everyone can do, from the 10,000 goals that God put in there in the beginning, so that you can externalize them, write them down, and then make a plan for your 168 hours a week. Some of which has to do with making a living, some of it has to do with fitness, some of it has to do with other aspects that we'll talk about in a minute. And I would like you then to spend time with my belief, or considering it, that the achievement of my 9 out of 10 and 10 out of 10 goals is the nature of life itself. So life is about finding out what the goals are and achieving them, and doing it in a systematic way so that you do all of them, not 1, 2, 5, or 10, but 10,000 or more. And that will give life gusto. Now, part two is that I would like to focus on what I call how to have a magnificent life. And many people don't have a magnificent life. That's part of your inheritance, and everyone is capable of being happy all the time without using drugs, without using alcohol, and learning how to deal with life. And I'm going to spend a few minutes on that right now. That basically human beings can have what I call a 10 out of 10 day every day. We're going to talk about that. Some of the terminology that I like to use are called 10s, 25s, 50s, and 100s. These are technical terms. If you read my books or listen to CDs, I'll spell them out briefly now, but you can go in great detail. A 10 is any experience that makes your heart sing, that makes you feel good. So a 10 is something that makes your heart sing on a daily basis so that you could do it every day. I like to take hot bubble baths. I like to cuddle with my wife, Victoria. I like to eat dark chocolate. I like to go for runs. I like to have, not every day, but a couple of times a week, to have a massage. I like basically to take walks in the bush or in the outback where there's nice for foliage. I like to fry garlic in olive oil. I like to drink red wine. I like to get my back scratched where it itches just at that space. I like to listen to music. Yeah, and I'm going to ask, I'm just talking about my Fredness, but all of you have things that nobody has to talk you into liking. You just really like them. And I would love you, as we're speaking, is one of your homeworks is to start writing lists of things that you really love that you can do on a daily basis. And whenever you do them or even think about them, playing with your puppy, reading stories to your children, singing, yeah, going for a surf, going on a bike ride, yeah, whatever it might be, I'm asking you to start making lists which are the keys to your consciousness of what you naturally are luminescent about, because whenever you do that, you just glow. 25s are things that make your heart sing, just like the 10s, but if you did them every day, it would be too much. Going to the opera might be too much to go every day, but every 2 weeks or every month might be fine. Going on a rigorous ski trip, you might be able to do it every 2 weeks. Going to the theater, going to a restaurant with white tablecloths and ordering a fine meal. Every day might be too much, but every 2 weeks might be your rhythm. Depends on who you are. But there'll be a whole category of things that you love, but it would be too much if I, who love chocolate mousse, ate it every day. I wouldn't be able to walk through the door. But every 2 weeks, I just had an amazing chocolate mousse at our conference in Scottsdale. Delicious. 50, 75, or 100 are things that you do once or twice a year. And I would love you to get used to things, birthdays, anniversaries, trips to Europe, going on a motorbike ride for a significant distance, arranging a surprise party for a particular anniversary, whatever that is. But 50, 70 are things that you really love that you do once or twice a year. It could be travel, it could be adventure, it depends on your economic or your passion level. So now we've opened a new door, that the keys to your natural passion are things that you are naturally passionate about. And I'm asking you to catch yourself enjoying them. You can ask people who know you and say, what do you like? I love drinking a good beer. I love hanging out with my mates and singing karaoke. That's wonderful. And we would just want you to start, as part of the homework, to write down any time you catch yourself genuinely enjoying. Now that's different from heroin use, and it's different from methamphetamine use. Those are not enjoyments. Those are addictions, and they take over and steal your soul from you. That's a different. I'm asking you that when you play with your puppy, that's a different feeling. And when you're listening to Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, where you might have a different feeling. And so part of our work then is to start making lists of things that you really love. And the mooring line that comes up to the key to happiness is people haven't accumulated in a conscious way that which pleases them. And then what do you do for a day? Well, if you're having a 5 or a 6 day, because you ask yourself, how am I doing today? I had a difficult time. I had a puncture. I ran out of gas. I had somebody yelled at me for what I did at work. That's part of life. Whatever happens comes to you. That's called life. Your job then is to add things from tens on your list. So if you went to a funny movie, if you went out to dinner with a friend, if you went rollerblading, if you like to do that, if you went for a bike ride, if you did some good exercise, or whatever it is that you enjoy, you can add that into each day, just like if you have a cold bathtub, you can add hot water. I'm asking you, as part of this, is taking charge of your consciousness rather than being a victim or reacting to it. Just like if it's raining, you can put an umbrella out and a raincoat, and so that it's inconvenient, but it's no big deal. And you can take control over your happiness. Is it there? Everyone has inside of them 10s, 25s, 50s, and 100s. I'm asking you to write them down until you remind yourself of the gifts that were put in your cradle as your birthright, the seeds of happiness. I would ask you to do this with your beloveds, to say and catch them when their heart is singing, when they're giggling, when they're upbeat, when their energy is luminescent, when they really feel great. And the mooring line comes because people say I should fake happiness, or I'll have to drink alcohol to be happy, or I have to do some high-risk activity because I've numbed myself out. And we're asking you to denumb yourself and to stop basically shutting down your soul and its communication and all of the gifts you're giving, so that bubbling from consciousness is the awareness of 10s, 25s, 50s, and 100s that you can write down. I'd like you to do it with your children. I'd like you to do it with people you work with. If you're talking with customers, find out what makes their heart sing, whether it is their kid, whether it is their sports team, whether it is their church activity or the missionary, whatever it might be. As you speak soul to soul of what our people are passionate about, one, you connect with them. And you may find that one of your impediments to making a living is that you treated people like a block of wood rather than as angelic beings, sentient divine beings who have hopes and dreams and 10s and 25s and goals. And when you start sharing on this level, there's an oscillation that overrides what are called mooring lines. Because if you know you're going to a concert and these other people like concerts, then you can flow together and go to a concert together. If you don't have the money, figure out how to make money, because that's one of the areas that you have control over. So we're opening a door on how many people stop themselves. They don't know what they want. They don't know what makes them happy. When in fact, all they have to do is uncover their 10s. All they have to do is dump out their goals, look them over, potentize them, put in the behavior that will take them to the next level. And then Bob's your uncle. There she is. You're able to do that. Now, when we talk this way, There are many people who do life by accident. There are people who are like impulse shoppers. So many people go to the supermarket and they don't have a menu of what they want. They just respond to Coca-Cola, they respond to potato chips, they respond as they walk up and down the designed aisles to addictive food, poisons, and all of the things that are in processed food. And I would like you to consider what it would be like if you went to the supermarket with a menu and what you needed. And you only bought what you needed, so you took control, focused on what you want, and then got out of the supermarket, seeing it as a place that sells marijuana and heroin in the form of genetically modified food, in the form of preservative that's used for embalming when they're not using it to embalm food, and to get in, get the food you can in some honest and nutritious way, and then go home and enjoy the food with companions, people you break bread with, and then have the experience of it. What I'm touching on is living a life on purpose. And one of the tools I would suggest is that you actually plan every day you're on the planet. Today for me is a Tuesday. I assume it's Tuesday for you in New Zealand now where I live. It's Wednesday. And I would love you to consider that you have a plan for every day, goals for every day. What do I want to accomplish when I start a Tuesday? It's near the end of the day, so that part of the day is gone already. But we can do that with Wednesday. And you say, what are the 5 things I'd like to accomplish? One of the mooring lines is people have no plan for the day and they impulse other people's needs. The television tells them what to buy. People take their time with emails. People call you and text you and distract you from your divine purpose, from your goal achievement, from making money, from having a life, because people are ring you on the telephone and steal your soul if you let them. However, if you would, as a tool, write down the things that you'd like to do, and it might be to have a sport, Tim would go skiing, hang out with Tina, do different things, and I need to know what would be a 10 out of 10 Wednesday for you in terms of making a living, dollar productive behavior, in terms of adding 10s and 25s to every day of your life, so that for me, every day is meant to be 9.5 to 10, because you've taken charge of the day and added into your day that which makes your heart sing. And if you have a beloved, to know what makes their heart sing and help them achieve them as well. So if you know they like flowers, you might bring them some. Or if you know they like you to sing to them or leave love messages on the telephone, make sure you get the right telephone number. You can leave them these messages as well. So now we've opened a new path and we're coming near the end of my speaking time. So I'm going to begin to wind up. And what I'm saying is I'm asking you to do a life on purpose. And when you have a plan for the day, a plan for 10 to 11, and a plan from 12 to 2, including enjoying life at 10 out of 10, including making a living if it's a business day, including your fitness and time with your beloveds and those people who are in your 10, 25, 50, and 100 list, all of a sudden, by taking on, having a plan, the implementation is always the easiest. Let me say that again. The implementation of your dreams and your plans is easy when you know what they are. The biggest mooring lines is people, what do you want to do? I don't know. What do you like? I don't know. Well, take a minute and find out what you want, and then let's do it. And if people have divergent things with a group of people, you can take turns. It's what you do in a good marriage. You say, okay, it's your turn, and then it'll be my turn. And I'd like your company because I can't dance the tango by myself. So let me just go with that. One of the takeaways for today is I'd like you to be clear on what you control and what you don't control. Anything I can't control, like the plane that went down over Malaysia, is all entertainment. Most of this culture we're a part of is designed to suck your brain out, suck your soul out, and have you focus on irrelevant activities of irrelevant people doing irrelevant things. And I'm asking you to go back to what you have control of, your goals, your hopes, your dreams, your day, your 10s, your beloved's hopes, dreams, and 10s, and operate in the realm of what you control so that you can influence. What happens to mooring lines? When I say to someone, would you like to go for ice cream, and they love ice cream, and there's no mooring line, choom, they're there. So I want you to have a life with a lot of choom in it, and then the mooring lines drop away. People who take a plane to Europe don't miss the plane. Why? Because it's something they want to do. So I want you to be involved in what you do, and a lot of mooring lines drop away if you're not too dysfunctional at this stage. So next, everything is inside of you. One of the takeaways is all of your hopes, your dreams, your goals, their implementation, all of your skills, all of your past experience and future experience are inside of you. And you can access them in minutes. I've just practiced with you, and it's up to you. I'm sure this is being recorded. You can listen to it again. And 3, you have up to 10,000, maybe more goals, dreams, hopes inside of you, waiting to be discovered. It's like a person who wants to get pregnant. They have all kinds of eggs, but they have to ovulate. And the ovulation process is bringing these goals into consciousness, writing them down, and then in the conscious world on paper, you can then move them around, potentize them, and put them on your calendar for doing them Wednesday afternoon. So those are the 3 takeaways. Your actions that I'd like to point you to is I'd like you to harvest your goals on a daily basis for at least 30 days, to take 3 to 5 minutes on a fresh piece of paper, or fresh, so you're not looking at what you wrote. You just keep pulling from your unconscious, writing down anything, sport, what other people might want, as long as you want it, and then to potentize it. 2, I'm asking you to, as takeaway, to plan every day in writing, to have a goal for every day. And while I can't get into it, I work on the 2-week plan. Every fortnight, we call it in New Zealand, every 2 weeks. There are 26 a year. For me, is a canvas of life. And I have goals for every 2-week period, so that if I have 5 workouts, I do the 5 workouts in 14 days. And I have in that 14 ideal days with goals for each day. And I would love you to start doing a life on purpose rather than being the victims of email and voicemail and nonsense and media and entertainment and people who are brainless, and to begin to hang around with other people who have a life on purpose and are really enjoying themselves rather than our victims. And the last is to get a core belief that all mooring lines are inside you. Because if you can have a mooring line that's stopping you, I can figure out, if I were working with you, how to get around it. It's just a temporary inconvenience, whether it be a blizzard or a flood or an illness. That's a temporary setback which we can walk around. It's not like a rock in the road. It's like a pea in the road that you can get around. So those are my takeaways. Okay, Mr. Brian, do you have any questions for me?
No, that was fantastic, Dr. Fred. And for you did mention that this webinar is being recorded. So for those of you, by tomorrow, the webinar will be posted on our website. In addition to the 3 takeaways and 3 actions Dr. Fred just summarized, we'll post that on our website as well. Dr. Fred, that was fantastic.
Thank you, Brian. Do you have any questions or did anything come to you in this process? Or should I can just have one more bit before I let you go. Does Tim have anything that he wants to add in, or any questions or challenges?
Let's see. Let's plug him in to see if the audio works for him. Hello, Tim, are you there?
I'm muted.
Hello, Tim, are you there?
Yeah, I actually had a question. Tina sent it in. What's the best way to stay focused with on what you're currently doing when dealing with a busy lifestyle? And what I want you to touch on is your concept of switching channels, which I think is brilliant.
Okay. What Tim is saying is that if you have 10 or 15 activities that are divergent, you may have young children, you may have a house that has to be managed, you may have a business, you might have a job, you may have sick parents, you might have relatives, cousins, friends, tribe, you may have neighbors, you may have to be helping in the school, or whatever all these activities are. I work with human consciousness. That's my special area, either to make money or to have an amazing life. And I believe that each human being has 100 basic channels, 100 channels, like a television set, a little bit like when you have satellite TV. So that channel 22, I've arbitrarily labeled, is the channel that you go to when you're doing home, family, and house. Channel 37 is when you're making a living or making money. It could be investments, it could be work. Channel 69 is when you're depressed and despondent and despairing. Channel 77 is when you're celebrating and going to a party. And that where there were different channels, I've labeled the whole lot. There's channel 5 is when you're being a child, you are having water fights and tickle parties, all of which are important. So I believe everyone has the first 100, which are ordinary consciousness channels, so that I have a channel, I bake bread. So when I bake bread, I bake 100 loaves every 2 weeks and I give them away. this just as a hobby. I go into my bread baking. When I fish, I do fishing. When I run, I'm a runner. When I'm on my motorbike, I'm a motor person. When I pray, I'm another channel of consciousness, so that when I'm praying, I'm not doing bread, I'm doing God. So the first 100 channels, number one, are ordinary consciousness, and part of my teaching is to teach you how to be a black belt on every level of that channel. So if you're into making money, I want you to be wealthy. If you're into family, I would like you to have a 10 out of 10 family life for you and the people who you share life with. In addition to having channels, we have what are called sub-personalities. Sub-personalities makes the statement that every human being has at least 70 different people living inside of them, not as fake masks, but different aspects of your core of being. So that when I'm baking bread, I have different sub-personalities baking than when I'm speaking to 10,000 people in public. It's a different part of Fred, and it's always authentic. So that when you go to Venice to a masked ball, you put on a mask. That's called persona. That's not real. It's like when you see the actors tell you they love to clean toilet bowls. Realize that if they didn't like to clean the toilet bowls on television, they'd be fired. So they fake liking it. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying that on these channels are different sub-personalities. So that a sub-personality could be the business person, the comedian, the son, the daughter, the athlete, the assertive person, the banker, the numbers person, the wise person, the guilty person, the frightened person, the despondent person, the exuberant person. These are all sub-personalities, and you have all of them, and you can tell there's a mixture of them. Right now I'm in my teacher personality. In a little while I'll be in some other personalities, and it's normal to shift both channels at will. You can shift from your business channel, take a deep breath, and go from business to imagining you're going to go home, and why you married the person or hanging out and living with this person, and the beauty of the kids that you spent all this money raising, and the pleasure they give you when you read to them and they say that I love you. And you can, using and in a movie theater, shift channels and prepare to enter your home. And we can train you to do that. So at work, you're fully on channel 37 with the appropriate sub-personalities to make a living. And when you leave channel 37 and go to channel 22, you bring in the dad, the husband, the partner, the athlete, the one who helps with dinner, the one who sings or reads to the kids or helps them with homework. And you can shift both sub-personalities and channels at will. Now, very quickly, the first 100 channels are ordinary consciousness. Going to work, going to friends, working out, watching a movie, going to a restaurant. These are what we call ordinary realities. And then there are non-ordinary realities. Between channel 100 and 1,000, you have telepathic behavior and intuition, psychotropic, the ability to move your states of consciousness to euphoria and ecstasy. You have the healing channels where you can put your hands on people and heal them like Jesus did. He operated in channels that were different from ordinary consciousness, and he was an operating healer. You can telepathically read people easily. You can learn to read anyone just standing in their presence to know which sub-personalities are in them, whether it be a business setting or a personal setting. If someone is talking to you nicely, but you might see they're attacking you by sarcasm or their tone of voice, all of these are from channel 100 to channel 1,000. And the work I do is to train people in ordinary reality to be 10 out of 10, i.e. black belts, and to also develop the parts of extraordinary reality, telekinesis and so forth, and manifesting from idea to the physical plane. So if you have a vision of a house, you can make a house. You just hire an architect and build a house. And so these are different phases of working with consciousness. Now, many people say it can't be done, and they can't do it because they don't know how. But if I can do it, you can do it, and I can teach you how to do it, and it depends on if it's important to you. So when we talk about mooring lines, which is the theme, mooring lines are when you tell yourself it can't be done. And I'm here to tell you that everything that's a mooring line the mooring line is inside you, and the solution is inside of you. And if a human being can do it, you can do it. Some will play the piano better than you, but you could sit and learn to play the piano. Timmy, any other questions?
And Dr. Fred, if any of the attendees wanted to reach out to you and ask you a question kind of off the air, do you have an email? Would you want to share your email with the group in that sense?
I wouldn't want to do it. Send them to you.
Okay.
I am fully occupied. Incidentally, guys, I'm 80 years old. And I'm getting ready for my 80th. Right? And
Congratulations, Dr. Fred.
I'm planning to live to 120 because I don't believe in suiciding with all my friends. And I would like, as part of this, if I can encourage you, to change the belief that would have you die between 75 and 85 by having such a passionate, interesting life that you refuse to go. It's just too much going on. Okay?
I love it. So
So
if anyone has any,
I'm fully engaged now. I
yeah,
just don't have time for
of
casual email.
course.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again, Dr. Fred. If there are any questions, please email them to info@onelifefullylived.org. And on behalf of the One Life team, Dr. Fred, thank you so much for your time. We know it's valuable, and
Thank you.
great presentation. I hope the video, hope all of our attendees liked how our video turned out. And without further ado, we would like to.
Brian, before you
Yeah,
go, I want to say
sure.
one thing more. I've worked with Tim for over 15 years. Tim can teach everything I've just taught. So you have him as part of your world. Take advantage of him. He's an amazing man. So just ask him the questions that you would ask me, and he would speak for me and accurately. I think he's amazing.
Thank
now
you,
I'll
Dr.
let you go.
I appreciate it, and I'll contest to that statement as well, even though I know you've known Tim a lot much longer than myself. So without further ado, we're wrapping up here. And in regards to our special announcement, we do have a brand new updated website for everyone. So if you visit onelifefullylived.org, you'll see our updated website, and even more exciting is an actual program for One Life Fully Lived. So I encourage you to please go to onelifefullylived.org, and the program is called One Life Mastery Course. And if you click on One Life Mastery Course, it goes to an introduction page. And if you scroll down, there's a few different places to register within the site. But once you register for the course and join our mailing list, you'll receive 2 ebooks that will accompany the course. And it's a free online program. So this is brand new. We've just launched it, and we're excited to share it with all of you. And also give us your feedback. You know, we are. This is a brand new course and program, but it will be ever changing. So we hope you get the value from it. And thank you all once again for attending. And this webinar, it has been recorded and will be available again on our website. So see you all again next month with Christopher Lockhead on May 13th. All right. Thank you all again, and hope you enjoy the rest of the month. Bye-bye.